Welcome to the second submodule of this session. I hope that you have enjoyed learning in the first submodule. In this submodule, you will learn how energy is traded over an exchange, the intricate workings of the power pools, the multi-settlement markets and the pricing systems. We will start by understanding the trading of energy over an exchange, the role of an order book, the placement and matching of orders, and how this process contributes to efficient trading. We will also explore the special considerations when the exchange works as a counterparty, thus ensuring smooth transactions and risk mitigation. Next, we will uncover the fascinating operations of the power pools, describing how these pools facilitate the trading of electricity among different players. We will also understand how the system marginal price is discovered within a pool, the factors impacting it and its implication for the market participants. We will also explain the motives behind the complex bidding strategies and will describe the process of discovering the system marginal price in the presence of the complex bids in order to provide you with the necessary skills to analyze these bids. Multi-settlement markets are a significant component of energy trading landscape. In this part, you will learn about the steps taken by the system operator to allocate the generating capacity at different timestamps to meet the forecasted and actual load. This knowledge will help you understand how the market participants execute their strategies based on supply and demand dynamics. Interactions between the day ahead market and the balancing market in a multi-settlement market are very crucial to ensure grid stability and reliability. We will explore how these markets complement each other and ensure that supply and demand are balanced in real time. Understanding of pricing system is one of the most important aspects of anyone involved in energy trading. We will compare the uniform pricing system with zonal and locational marginal prices. Each system has distinct characteristics and we will discuss their advantages as well as their limitations. Moreover, we will also describe the intricacies of the locational marginal price systems, also called the LMP systems, by explaining how prices are determined at each node in the grid system. You will learn how to calculate the LMP at each node and understand the concept of congestion surplus, which plays a pivotal role in efficient resource allocation. By the end of this module, you will have a comprehensive understanding of energy trading over an exchange, the workings of power pools, multi-settlement markets and pricing systems. With this knowledge, you will be better equipped to navigate the complexities of energy markets and make informed decisions in this dynamic and exciting industry. So, let's embark on this learning journey together. The bilateral markets that we covered in the previous part are very flexible and they gradually develop and evolve based on emerging opportunities and needs within a given industry. But as these flexible markets evolve into some kind of centralized form, some kind of structure is being imposed, and that's why these are called organized markets. As we delve into the concept of these markets, it is crucial to understand that centralized markets play a pivotal role in providing structure and organization. Their success depends on their relative usefulness as compared to the bilateral markets. These centralized markets can take the form of exchanges and power pools, providing a framework for the participants to engage in transactions with greater efficiency. Moreover, it is worth noting that some centralized markets such as the power pools are regulated or established by the government to address electricity industry specific challenges, especially the coordination issues that we discussed previously, that there should always be a balanced schedule available for the transmission network. Also, this regulatory oversight ensures a fair and transparent environment, fostering trust among market participants. One interesting aspect within this landscape is the emergence of multi-settlement markets that we will discuss in this session. These markets integrate various elements of the electricity market such as scheduling and balancing. This integration enhances the overall functionality and adaptability of the market, providing a comprehensive solution to the diverse needs of participants. One of the most commonly known organized market for trading of electricity is called the electricity market exchange or just an exchange. So, what exactly is an electricity market exchange? The most simplified explanation is that it is a convenient location for the buyers and sellers to find each other and make deals. A modern exchange is a dynamic electronic platform where bids and offers are made and trades are established. Here is how it works. Participants, both those looking to buy and sell electricity, submit their bids and offers through this platform. Think of it as a virtual marketplace where these bids and offers are like price tags on products. The exchange then plays the role of a matchmaker, pairing up compatible bids and offers to establish trades. As we said, that organized markets have some kind of structure imposed. Following are some main features of that structure. Number one is the definition of the products. The exchange defines these types of electricity products that can be traded, such as day-ahead power, firm power, or options. Number two is the definition of order types. The exchange defines the elements of the electronic submission that buyers and sellers submit to indicate the terms at which they want to trade. The simplest version of allowed order types are limit orders, in which potential buyers submit bids to buy up to a given quantity at a given price or lower, and potential sellers submit offers to sell up to a given quantity at a given price or higher. Number three is the matching engine of the exchange, which processes orders and determines which trades are made. The matching engine typically ranks orders by price and establishes trades wherever there are bids and offers made where the bid price is higher than the offer price. Number four are the settlement rules that specify how trades are settled, including the timing of payments and the delivery of electricity. As I said earlier that the limit orders are the simplest type of the order types traded over an exchange. Picture it like the following. A potential buyer specifies the maximum price they are willing to pay, while a potential seller sets a minimum acceptable price. It is like setting boundaries for a negotiation, defining the upper limit for a buyer and the lower limit for a seller. As there are several participants that simultaneously submit these limit orders. So, these are recorded in an organized manner called the order book. The order book is a comprehensive list containing all the limit orders submitted to the exchange. What makes it interesting is that the order book is like a leaderboard with bids and offers ranked by price. The highest bid take the top spots while the lowest offers settle at the bottom. Now let's take a closer look at a snapshot of a limit order book, say for firm power delivered to Tartu on March 31 between 9 to 10. The book shows a dynamic list of offers to sell and bid to buy, each represented as a price and quantity pair. Importantly, these bids and offers are associated with specific buyers or sellers, though their identities may be masked by the generic ID numbers respecting the exchange rules. In this dynamic marketplace, a matching engine does the job of ranking bids and offers by price and establishing trades whenever there is a bid with a higher price than an offer. Consider a scenario where two offers have the same price. The matching engine might apply a secondary criteria such as the time of submission to determine priority. It is worth noting that not all bids and offers result in trades. If the lowest offer has a higher price than the highest bid, no trade occurs. The offers potentially await new submissions. Buyers and sellers often have the flexibility to withdraw orders or adhere to rules specifying their expiration. For example, in this order book, no trade can occur as the lowest offer is still higher than the highest bid. For example, in this order book, no trade can occur as the lowest offer is still higher than the highest bid. Now consider a scenario where a new bidder enters, willing to take the two lowest offers. They submit matching bids and trades are established. However, this level of precision in trading can only happen when bidders have sufficient details about the order book. The information available to buyers and sellers about the order book can vary to a greater extent. Some exchanges show only summary information like the highest bid and lowest offer price rather than revealing the full book. It is important to acknowledge that the total quantity bid and offered at any given time is usually relatively small. But the potential for additional bids and offers is significant. Exchange activity fluctuates throughout the day and month, with certain windows of high trade execution. During these periods, the exchange is more liquid, making it easier for buyers and sellers to find favorable terms. In less liquid times, trading becomes more challenging. Finally, trades on an exchange typically remain as bilateral contracts between buyers and sellers. The exchange serves as the meeting point and facilitator, with its rule for settlement potentially providing additional benefits to the involved parties. In contrary to the bilateral setup, exchanges are also set up in a very different market structure where the exchange itself works as the central counterparty to the trade. Here, the exchange takes on a central role, becoming the seller to the original buyer and the buyer to the original seller after a trade is identified. This innovative mechanism creates two trades instead of one, with the net effect typically equivalent to a single trade between the original counterparts. In more simple words, in this mechanism, the exchange buy the product from the seller and sell it to the buyer. Also, the exchange always have a net zero position, meaning that it is selling the same amount that it has bought. The central counterparty clearing is a process that not only enhances market efficiency but also mitigates risks in a dynamic trading environment. The pivotal advantage of central counterparty clearing lies in its ability to significantly reduce credit risk for both buyers and sellers. By assuming the role of the counterparty to all trades, the exchange ensures that transactions are settled even if one of the original counterparty defaults. However, it is important to note that this approach does not come without considerations. In the rare circumstances of credit issues, the original buyer and seller are insulated from each other's credit risk, placing a spotlight on the credit risk associated with the central counterparty, that is the exchange itself, for which the exchange requires collaterals from its members. Exchange trading serves as a valuable source of reliable price information, often more dependable than price assessment, which is based on voluntary reporting that we covered previously. Yet, caution is necessary in interpreting this data, considering that the vast majority of bilateral trading may still occur outside the exchange. While the exchange price is a robust indicator, it may not fully represent the total market, requiring careful analysis. The trades made on the exchange may not be fully representative of the total market. Additionally, Despite its reliability, exchange trading is not immune to market manipulation. Instances of manipulation can distort prices, making it challenging to gauge the true supply and demand dynamics accurately. So, in summary, electricity market exchanges play a vital role in the electricity industry. They provide a transparent and efficient platform for buyers and sellers to trade electricity, and they help to mitigate the credit risk in case of central counterparty clearing. In the discussions regarding exchanges, we understood that the buyers and sellers have the flexibility to decide how much they want to buy and sell, and once a trade is established, they have to respect those trades in physical quantities as well at the time of delivery. Otherwise, there will be consequences. So, here again comes the famous coordination issue. The power pools approaches this problem in a different manner. We will discuss this and other fascinating features of power pools in this part. Power pools have been an integral part of the electricity industry for decades, providing a platform for neighboring electricity systems to share and trade resources. These pools have proven to be effective in ensuring efficient and reliable electricity supply, while also fostering competition and innovation in the sector. While the exchanges operate on the bilateral basis, a power pool establishes a set of rules that determine how much energy is needed collectively and which generators are to produce it. Contrary to the exchange, the power pools can have only single side bidding by the generators and the demand is forecasted by the pool administrator. It is always the central authority that decides which generators have to meet the demand, considering the feasibility for the transmission system, thus solving the coordination issue to a greater extent. The exchanges are always price based, while the pools can be cost based or price based, meaning that the generators can only submit their variable costs or they can bid the price they want. Normally, all pools start with the cost based approach and then gradually move towards price based mechanism once the market is a bit mature. Now the benefits of the power pools. The first benefit is increased efficiency. By pooling resources, power pools can ensure that electricity is generated and delivered where it is needed most, reducing overall system costs. The second benefit is the resultant improved reliability. Power pools can help to maintain system reliability by providing a mechanism for sharing reserves and responding to unexpected outages, as all the resources are pooled together and in control of the central authority. The third important advantage is the enhanced competition. Power pools create a level playing field for generators, allowing them to compete on price and efficiency. This competition can lead to lower electricity prices for consumers. Now, with the understanding of what the power pools do, what are the benefits, let's talk about how they actually operate. Power pools operate through a series of auctions where generators submit offers to sell electricity and buyers submit bids to purchase it. The pool's clearing price is determined by the intersection of supply and demand. Generators whose bids are below the clearing price are dispatched to produce electricity, while buyers whose bids are above the clearing price are able to purchase it. So, this is how a power pool operates in general, but there are more details that we will cover next. As I said that the generators and buyers submit offers and bids, those bids are of two types, simple and complex. In this part, we use the words bids or offers interchangeably. So whatever applies to a bid, it also applies to an offer and vice versa. So let's discuss the simple bids first in this part. These are the simplest form of bids which are submitted under a set of rules that treats each hour independently. That is, what a bidder wins in 1 hour has no impact on what the bidder wins in a following hour. These simple bids are just a price and quantity pair for that hour's auction. A generator can also submit multiple offers indicating that additional quantities are available at successively higher prices. This is a typical example of supply offers from different generators. You can see that these are just the price and quantity pairs for a particular hour, and a single generator has submitted more than one offers with different quantity and prices. In order to process these offers and bids and establish trades, the pool operator constructs two curves, that is the supply curve and the demand curve. To construct the supply curve, the pool operator collects all of the offers and rank these according to the price, with the lowest price representing the start of the supply curve and the highest price representing the end of the supply curve. This is a typical example of supply curve constructed from the previous example, in which the lowest offer sits at the bottom and the highest offer sits at the top. In order to construct the demand curve, there are two methods available, where there is only single side bidding allowed, meaning that only generators are allowed to submit offers. Then in such case, the pool operator has the responsibility to forecast the demand of the whole system and construct the demand curve. The demand curve is normally a vertical line parallel to the price axis. This is the graphical depiction of the demand curve, where the load forecast is drawn on the supply curve. In this example, the total load is around 480 megawatt. In the second method, where a double side bidding is allowed, the load serving entities bid their demand and the demand curve is constructed in similar manner as the supply curve, with the highest bid sitting at the top of the curve while the lowest bid sits at the bottom of the curve. It is explained through the following example. This is a typical example of demand bids from three load serving entities, and using this information we will construct the demand curve. So this is how the demand curve is drawn over the supply curve. As you can see that the highest bid sits at the top and the lowest bid sits at the bottom. This is just an example, but considering the characteristics of the electricity demand, the upper left portion of the demand curve is flat. And the lower right portion is quite steep, showing that the demand is very inelastic with respect to price. As from our preliminary knowledge of the markets, we know that the price is the result of interactions of the demand and supply. The intersection of the load curve and the supply curve determines the pool price, also known as the clearing price. In a pure gross pool model, all of the generators with cleared bids are paid the pool price for the power they offered, even when they had offered the price at a lower price. In this example, the pool price is set by this intersection point. In both types of the pools, either double side bidding or single side bidding. Now, When the offers and bids are processed and the market clearing is established, let's discuss how the generators will be dispatched. The process works like this, where this demand curve intersects the supply curve determines which generators should be dispatched or which offers are cleared. All of these offers that are less than the pool price are cleared. These generators making these offers are assigned to generate. Each generation plant is awarded the quantity specified in their offer. This is also called the generation award, a term that you need to remember as it will be oftenly used. Offers that are exactly equal to the pool price are also cleared, but the generation award is less than the total quantity offered. And set so that total generation supplied exactly equals the forecasted load. In this example, the last generator will be assigned partial quantity that it has offered into the market, not the whole one. As I said earlier, that in a pure gross pool, as other variations also exist, the generators with cleared bids are paid the pool price for their generation award, even if they had offered lower price. This is called the pay as cleared mechanism, in which everyone is paid the same clearing price and the demand also pays the same price to the pool. We already discussed these commonly used terminologies in our previous submodule that we will use in this part as well, and here is a quick recap. The generator whose offer sets the pool price, that is demand curve intersects the supply curve on its offer, is called the marginal generator. All generators whose offers are below the marginal generator are called the inframarginal generators. These inframarginal generators will receive the full generation award for their offers. The pool price set by the intersection of the demand and supply curves is also called the system marginal price, which is equal to the cost of the production of one additional unit of electricity. Let's explain this with the help of an example for a recap. Here the marginal generator is where the demand curve intersects its offer in the supply curve. All the generators below are the inframarginal generators and they will produce their full offers, while the marginal generator will only produce the portion left to the demand curve. The system marginal price is equal to the offer of the marginal generator, and if any additional unit is going to be produced, this generator is the one to produce it. That is why the system marginal price is determined as the price of one additional unit needed in this system. In order to maximize their profits in a perfectly competitive markets, the generators always submit offers equal to their true marginal cost. Submitting anything different than this runs the risk which may result in losses. For example, if you submit higher offer than the true marginal cost, then there is a chance that you might not get cleared and the marginal price is set below your submitted offer. But that price is still higher than your true marginal cost. In that case, you will be losing money because you will not be dispatched to earn that difference. In the opposite case, if you submit lower offer than the true marginal cost, then you might get cleared and the marginal cost is set below your true variable cost. In that case, you will be generating at a higher cost but will be getting lower from the market clearing price, and this will result in a loss. So, in a perfect competition, there is no incentive in hiding your true marginal cost, and there is always a risk of loss if you do so. However, competition is not always perfect. Some generators have the power to influence the market price. This influence is called the market power. The generators with the market powers always maximize their profits by declaring offers higher than their true marginal cost and thus driving the market prices up. Therefore, it is necessary for the regulators and market monitors to constantly monitor if the market participants are truly competitive and propose measures to mitigate the exercise of market power by certain generators. Now, we have understood the operations of the power pools with the help of simple bids, but as you already know from the previous session that the operation of the power system is not that simple and there are interdependencies of operations between one hour to the other. For example, a base load plant running in 1 hour can be abruptly stopped in the next hour and then started again. Another limitation could be that a generator can't be run below its minimum generation levels, and in simple bids, what if its generation award is less than this minimum? He can't fulfill this obligation. So, there are a lot of inflexibilities which need to be considered while submitting these offers. As the simple bids ignore these inflexibilities, they are properly taken into account through the complex bids which we will discuss in this part. The alternative solution to the issues with the simple bidding is to allow generators to submit offers that reflect that actual operation of their plants. These bids are called the complex bids. These bids can take many forms. Let's understand it with the help of one example where the generator is submitting an offer with a minimum generation constraint. In this example, generator Blackley has submitted an offer with a minimum generation level of 100. Now, let's try to construct a supply curve using this information. While constructing the supply curve, the sorting engine has to also consider the additional constraint that at any time the award to generator Blackley shall not be less than 100 megawatt. Therefore, the supply curve takes an interesting shape at the load levels between 170 megawatt to 270 megawatt. At this load level, although generator Blackley has the lowest price, however, due to its minimum capacity constraint, it can generate and it will not be awarded any generation here. The supply curve instead is formed by the next highest offers from generation Adrian and generation Abbeville. An interesting feature to note here is that in the complex bidding mechanisms, the marginal price can fluctuate with the changes in demand, and there is not always a direct correlation between demand and the marginal price as was exhibited in the simple bidding mechanism. The marginal price can decrease when the load increases, or it can increase when the load decreases. This feature is a transparent reflection of the intricacies arising from the constraints inherent to generation technologies. Complex bidding, while introducing intricacies, encourages generators to align their bids with marginal costs. In our example, generator Blackley is confident that it will not be awarded any amount less than its minimum generation level, for which it has to include a risk margin in the simple bidding case. So now, it is more inclined to set its offer price equal to its true marginal cost. However, the transition from one set of auction rules to another prompts strategic considerations for generators. In reality, different auction rules may lead to varied bidding strategies. The implications of such transitions necessitate a meticulous analysis of their strategic impact on bidding, which is a challenging endeavor. There are some obvious benefits of the complex bidding that it encourages efficiencies, as I explained. It improves the price signals because the price reflects the constraints of the generation technologies, and it also reduces market power because the price is discovered through a complex process difficult to maneuver. With all of its benefits and the capability to tackle the challenges faced by the simple bidding rules, the complex bidding has its own challenges. The complex bidding has its own challenges of increased complexity requiring sophisticated auction mechanisms and market design. The competition requirements are also intensive and participants can resort to strategic bidding, which is difficult to detect. So in conclusion, complex bidding offers a solution to the limitations of the simple bidding routes, and besides the challenges, its benefits are much greater, which make it worthwhile solution for implementation. With the understanding developed so far regarding exchanges and power pools, now we are ready to grasp the details of the integrated settlement of markets operated in different time frames. Well, the supply of electricity during any particular period is not an instantaneous process, but requires a sequence of careful decisions taken at different time frames considering different parameters. Following are the different stages of decision making during this process. Number one is the long-term planning stage, where years in advance, load serving entities and system operators ensure sufficient capacity investments to meet the potential demand. Number two is the medium term. As the year end season approaches, detailed plans are made to ensure the availability of the already installed capacity. As the day nears and a more reliable demand forecast is possible, LSE review energy contracts to confirm adequate supplies. Excess contracted power may be sold. On the actual day, an auction may determine the dispatch schedule for power plants throughout the day. Throughout the day, as contingencies arise, for example, a generator going offline, balancing adjustments are made to the schedule. At the moment of generation, the system operator ensures control of energy generation to match the system's total load. The process described above has been integrated into electricity markets through multiple stages. First, we will discuss the physical aspect which is written above the figure. The timeline is organized into four key phases, that is planning, scheduling, balancing and operations. The planning stage. The planning phase initiates well in advance, often many years before actual generation. It involves extensive planning processes to determine which generators will be available for operation. It includes optimization of maintenance schedules and solicitation of additional capacity. The next stage is called the scheduling stage, which starts at least a day before the actual operation. In this stage, the system operator forecasts the expected load for each hour of the upcoming day and develops a preliminary schedule of generation to match the forecasted load. This stage involves making final decisions on unit commitment, deciding which generators to turn on or off during the upcoming day. The third stage is called the balancing phase. As the time of delivery approaches, the system operator recognizes that actual load arrival is not in discrete blocks but changes gradually throughout the hour. The system operator makes adjustments aiming to fine-tune the dispatch of generation to match the evolving load. The adjustment may be needed due to unforeseen events such as generator outages or transmission line issues. This stage involves creating a more detailed balancing schedule with adjustment made in intervals as short as 5 minutes. At the moment of operation, further adjustments are necessary to precisely match load instant by instant. The system operator acknowledges that even the detailed balancing schedule may not be enough for a stable and secure electricity system. Adjustments are often made with generation units directly controlled by the system operator. During this stage, ancillary services such as regulation may be employed to facilitate these real-time adjustments. This iterative decision-making process ensures the efficient and reliable operation of the electricity generation. It involves long-term planning, short-term scheduling, continuous balancing, and real-time operational adjustments to maintain stability in the electricity grid. The bottom of the figure outlines the various markets employed to organize actions in electricity generation process. During the planning phase, the bilateral markets are at play. The load serving entities can sign new contracts with generations to match their expected load. Generation owners can plan their maintenance and can offer capacity for different times. All this happens in the bilateral market. One day before the actual operation, the centralized markets take over. The day ahead market is used to determine a preliminary schedule of generation and load for the next day. The market participants submit their offers and bids, which results in a day ahead schedule. These are typically organized in discrete blocks of time, for example 1 hour, and results in fixed quantity schedules for each hour. The bidding can be only for energy or other products such as operating reserves. Also, there is always a time called the gate closure before which the bids and offers must be submitted. Adjustments will be needed as the time of delivery approaches, for which the balancing market is employed, where deviations from the day ahead schedule are settled. The time duration of this balancing market is much finer, for example 5 minutes or 15 minutes, and a much finer schedule is prepared. When the real-time operation begins, the system operator takes control of the system and the market participants are no longer allowed to make adjustments to their schedules. The system operator uses the ancillary services, for example, operational reserves that it has procured in the day ahead or the balancing market to ensure stability of the power system. So, in this manner, the market mechanisms are aligned with the physical operations to ensure optimality at every stage. As we have discussed the different markets employed at different stages, so in this part we will discuss how the different operations are integrated with one another and how an integrated settlement system works. The integration among different markets happens in the following manner. The results of the bilateral trading influence the day ahead market, because the day ahead balance schedule must consider the bilateral as well as the centralized trading in order to come up with a feasible schedule. Similarly, the day ahead results influence the schedule of the balancing market. It has to be prepared considering variations from the day ahead schedule. Any shortfall occurring in the balancing market will be covered through ancillary services. These ancillary services are contracted in advance to be prepared for potential shortfalls. So, in integrated settlements, let's see how the bilateral contracts are integrated in day ahead market. One way to integrate bilateral contracts with day ahead market is to allow the market players to submit their balanced schedules bilaterally agreed. These bilaterally agreed quantities now become part of the bilateral schedule. These bilaterally agreed quantities now become part of the day ahead schedule. For example, in the state of New York, almost 50% of the day ahead schedule is fixed by the bilaterally agreed quantities. As these bilateral contracts are agreed at the bilateral prices, not at the day ahead prices, so the settlement of the day ahead markets with the integration of the bilateral contracts can take two forms. The first option is the direct option, in which the buyer pays directly to the seller the contract price and the system operator only settle the amounts procured through the day ahead. This is also called the net settlement procedure. The second option is the integrated settlement option. in which the bilateral quantities are also considered as an integral part of the day-ahead trading and are cleared on the day-ahead prices. This mechanism is also called the gross settlement. Now, as the day-ahead prices are different than the contract price, let's understand this with the help of an example. This table describes two different approaches for a market where a bilateral contract is integrated in a day-ahead market. We have assumed that a generator has sold 200 megawatt at a contract price of $30 per megawatt hour, resulting in a total payment of $6,000. This contract is integrated into the centralized day-ahead market with the day-ahead clearing price of $32 per megawatt hour. In the first alternative, the financial settlement is entirely left to the parties involved in the contract. The system operator's role is limited to confirming that the submitted schedules form a system-wide feasible schedule and allowing the power to flow on the network. Consequently, there is no payment from the load serving entity to the system operator and no payment from the system operator to the generator. Instead, the load serving entity directly pays the generator an agreed upon $6,000, mirroring a scenario as if there were no centralized market. The second alternative involves the system operator treating the scheduled power as part of the day-ahead centralized market clearing. Here, the generator sells 200 megawatt at the prevailing day-ahead clearing price of $32 per megawatt hour, and the load serving entity buys it at the same price. As the clearing price may differ from the contracted price between the two parties, their contract allows for a second payment to reconcile the difference. The reconciliation works in the following manner. When the day-ahead clearing price exceeds the contract price, the generator receives more from the system operator than initially agreed upon, while the load serving entity pays more. In this scenario, a second payment flows from the generator to the load serving entity, aligning the total payment with the originally contracted amount. Conversely, if the clearing price is lower than the contract price, the second payment flows from the load serving entity to the generator. Regardless of the day-ahead clearing price, this second payment ensures that the total payment from the LSE to the generator precisely matches the initially contracted amount. Thus, the mechanism guarantees financial reconciliation and contractual integrity, providing a robust framework for bilateral contracts within the centralized day-ahead market. Here in this example, as you can see that the clearing price is $2 more than the contract price. So, in this case, the generator will pay this difference to the load serving entity, which is represented as minus $400, which is the multiplication of the difference, which is $2 multiplied by the total quantity 200 megawatt hours. Here is another example of integration across multiple markets where day-ahead results are integrated with balancing market. In this hypothetical scenario, a generator is initially cleared in the day-ahead market to produce 400 megawatt at the day-ahead clearing price of $48 per megawatt hour. This results in the generator being awarded a total day-ahead payment of $19,200. However, upon receiving this award, the generator identifies the need to curtail its generation to 325 megawatt, which falls short of its obligations from the day-ahead auction. In order to rectify this situation, the generator participates in the balancing market, effectively buying back 75 megawatt. In this example, the clearing price in the balancing market is $55 per megawatt hour, necessitating a payment of $4125 by the generator to adjust its generation schedule. Ultimately, the generator produces 325 megawatt, earning a net settlement of $15,075. This integrated settlement mechanism aligns with the principles outlined in the last module, emphasizing that the cost of cover, the market price of replacing the contracted power, is the fundamental benchmark. In this case, the balancing market serves as the platform for covering the shortfall in the generator's initial commitment, and the associated cost of cover is determined by the clearing price in the balancing market. This integrated approach ensures that market participants are accountable for adjustments to their commitments, promoting efficiency and fairness in the overall settlement process. The implementation of multi-settlement systems varies significantly across countries and regions, reflecting diverse approaches to market structures and the evolution of the market. In this context, ancillary services markets, a crucial component for ensuring grid reliability, are handled differently based on regulatory frameworks and market designs. In several regions and countries, the responsibility for ancillary services is often delegated to a central authority, eliminating the need for separate ancillary services markets. This centralized approach streamlines operations and facilitates coordinated management of these critical services. Market evolution is another key factor influencing multi-settlement system configurations. Many countries have undergone a gradual transformation in their market structures, typically starting with the establishment of balancing and bilateral markets. Subsequently, scheduling markets are introduced, followed by the development of ancillary services markets. This sequential evolution allows for a systematic and phased implementation of market components. In the United States, the prevailing market design recommended by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission emphasizes a unified balancing market known as the real-time market. This approach consolidates various functions, simplifying market operations and enhancing efficiency. Conversely, in Europe, numerous countries have opted for multiple balancing markets referred to as intraday markets. This diversity in approach reflects the regional preferences in market design. Furthermore, certain US markets have employed an integrated model that combines the reserves market with both the day ahead and real time markets. This holistic approach aims to enhance coordination and efficiency across different aspects of the market operations, fostering a more seamless and responsive energy ecosystem. In conclusion, the configuration of multi-settlement systems is shaped by regulatory decisions, market evolution, and regional preferences, whether through centralized authority delegation or phased market evolution. The ultimate goal is to ensure the reliability and efficiency of the power grid while adapting to the specific needs and structures of each country or region. I believe we have covered enough, and let's have a break for 10 minutes. Welcome back. Let's continue to cover the remaining topics. Until now, we have been discussing the markets as if we have been trading electricity on a copper plate without considering the specific constraints put by the transmission network, with the exception of the feasible schedule for transmission. In this section, we will discuss the specific characteristics of the transmission network and its impact on the electricity markets. The first characteristic of the transmission network that impacts the electricity markets is the limited capacity. The transmission network is not unlimited, and there are areas in the transmission network where the power demanded to be delivered is greater than the capacity of the particular transmission lines connecting that region with the rest of the network. This phenomena is called congestion. In the previous modules, you have already understood the concept on unconstrained and constrained dispatch. The purpose of the centralized markets is to produce an optimal constrained dispatch. Now, when congestion happens, it becomes necessary to allow higher offers in the downstream of the congestion, which will replace the lower offers in the upstream. This is done so because the cheaper power available elsewhere can't reach this area because of the congestion, and some expensive but localized generation has to be dispatched to fulfill the requirement. However, it is important to consider that the offer will still have priority in congested area. That is, the cheapest power available within the congested zone will fulfill the requirement, as is the case in the rest of the network. As we have understood that there are two market mechanisms, the centralized and the bilateral and decentralized one. The centralized markets are more equipped with the necessary tools to manage congestion, as it deals with the electricity system in an integrated manner, while the decentralized markets have to adapt an iterative approach which may result in suboptimality. Like in any auction process, the primary objective is to ensure that the final dispatch awards represent the lowest cost option while remaining in strict adherence to the transmission constraints. This commitment to consistency not only optimizes cost effectiveness but also guarantees the reliability and stability of the transmission network. As I said earlier, to ensure this consistency, it is much convenient in the pool structure to consider all these constraints while deciding the optimal dispatch in a single algorithm, while the same will require multiple iterations in a non-centralized system. So, this is one of the advantages of the pool structure, that the consistency with the transmission network can be easily achieved. Let us explain this with the help of an example. This is a typical two bus system where each bus is equipped with a load and a generator. In this scenario, the lowest cost generator offered is situated at bus 2, possessing ample capacity to meet the energy demand of both buses. However, the line connecting both these buses has a capacity of 50 megawatt. Here, the importance of the transmission line becomes very obvious, that even the whole 75 megawatt of load at bus 1 can be met from generator at bus 2. However, we can't supply more than 50 megawatt from bus 2 to bus 1 due to this limitation, and the rest has to be fulfilled through local generator. From the previous example, we have understood that due to congestion, the cost of serving at different buses is different. One node can be served at the cost of 20, while the other at 35. So, how to reflect this in the market design? The solution to this is to have different pricing system. Following are different forms of pricing system that are employed across the markets. I have already touched upon this concept in our previous submodule, but here is a brief summary. Number 1 is the uniform price system, in which there is a single price across all of the market irrespective of the particular location. This is the simplest form of the markets and usually employed in markets which are new or where there are no significant congestion issues. This approach greatly simplifies the market design. For example, in our previous case, there is no single marginal cost irrespective of the location, because at one load the price is 35 while at the other it is 20. But still, we can define a single price to be the price of the last offer accepted, that is 35. All demand will pay 35 and all generators will be paid this price. But this is only one approach. Other approaches also exist. The second approach is to define different price zones. These zones are established based on the major congestions between different areas. The prices are different per zone and uniform within that zone. When a single system is operated with different prices in different zones of the system, we call this market splitting. We call the differential between the zones as congestion price. For example, Nord Pool divides its area into different zones called the bidding areas. The third and most advanced form of pricing system is the nodal pricing mechanism, in which the price at each node is different, taking into account the congestion and losses in the network. Nodal markets are the most advanced form of pricing system that reflects the true cost of serving load at any particular location. However, these are as complex as efficient and require a great deal of infrastructure and understanding in order to implement it. Nodal market design is a more sophisticated and complex approach than the zonal pricing system, which assigns a different locational marginal price to each node in the transmission network. The bidding happens in the usual manner and the lowest bids are cleared. However, transmission constraints are considered between each node. If the lowest cost generator can't supply to a node, the next higher cost generator that can supply to that load is selected. So as a result, there is no single price. The list formed in this manner shows the least cost way to serve the load. These nodal prices take the congestion pricing to its limit by expanding the zonal approach further to individual nodes. In a nodal market design, which is the standard market design in the US being promoted by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the generators situated in distinct regions receiving day-ahead generation awards will be compensated at different prices for the power they generate. This design approach introduces a level of granularity that allows for precise pricing based on the unique conditions and demands of each location within the broader electricity market. Another distinctive feature of nodal markets is their inclusion of losses into prices. Unlike more simplified pricing models, nodal markets take into account the losses incurred during the transmission of electricity. So, the locational marginal price at each node reflects the marginal value of an additional unit of generation specifically at that location. About the advantages. Nodal markets with their detailed and location specific pricing mechanisms can prove advantageous for incentives within the electricity market. By aligning compensation with the unique conditions and demands of each location, nodal markets create a more targeted and incentive driven environment. This approach encourages generators to strategically position themselves in locations where their contribution holds higher value, fostering a dynamic and responsive electricity market. As we have understood, the LMP at each node contains three components, that is energy price, congestion price and losses. We elaborate on these components one by one. First, we have the energy component, which is also sometimes called the system marginal price. It is the marginal cost of an additional unit of power in the system as a whole, not including the cost of congestion or losses. Given the current dispatch of the system, if the system needed to add another unit of generation, then this would be the incremental cost. In an LMP system, the energy component is the same for all nodes. The energy component is a baseline number and there can be differences across various systems about exactly how this baseline is calculated. Second, we have the congestion component. For nodes downstream of congestion, meaning that power cannot flow towards it, this component is positive. If the system has no congestion at all, then it is 0 for all nodes. Different nodes downstream of different congestion constraints will have different congestion components. If losses were 0, then any differences between the LMP at different nodes would be entirely due to congestion. In general, the congestion component can be either positive or negative, which depends on the location, whether you are located downstream of a congestion or upstream. Third, we have the loss component. This price component is equal to the marginal value of system-wide losses from an incremental unit of generation at that node. It is based on a set of marginal loss factors calculated for each node and based on the current dispatch of generation across the system and load across the system. Therefore, the marginal loss factors change according to the state of the system. The marginal loss component at an individual node can be either positive or negative, depending on whether the generation increases the losses or decreases the losses. Now, how the individual consumers pay these LMP. In a nodal system, the generators are paid the specific LMPs for their generation award. However, the load pays some kind of average wholesale price for specified regions. This is because the generators have more flexibility in selecting their location as compared to the load. Therefore, the price signal is made aligned to that. This is a typical example of the weighted average LMPs in PJM interconnect, showing the LMP and all its components. With the understanding of LMPs, now let's discuss the concept of the congestion surplus. Well, in the most simplest way, congestion surplus arises when the money collected from the demand is greater than the money paid to the generators. It is equal to the difference between the prices between two nodes and the power flowing from one node to the other. This money is typically collected by the system operator. Well, in most simplest way, congestion surplus arises when the money collected from the demand is greater than the money paid to the generator. It is equal to the difference between the prices between two nodes and the power flowing from one node to other. This money is typically collected by the system operator. Let's understand this with the help of an example. In this typical example, there is a congested transmission line between bus 1 and bus 2. This congestion leads to different locational marginal prices at the two buses. There is 50 megawatt of flow from bus 2 to bus 1. As load at bus 1 is 75 and generation is only 25. At bus 1, the load is 50 megawatt greater than the generation, while at bus 2, the load is 50 megawatt less than the generation. This creates a directional flow of power from bus 2 to bus 1. Importantly, the price at bus 1 is higher than at bus 2, reflecting the congestion conditions, meaning that cheaper generation is available at bus 2 but can't flow due to limitation of the line. Generators at bus 2 are compensated at a rate of $20 per megawatt hour for the power they produce, including the power flowing to bus 1. On the other hand, the load at bus 1 pays $35 per megawatt hour for the power it consumes, which includes the power received from bus 2. Due to the congestion, the price paid by the load at bus 1 is $15 per megawatt hour more than the price received by the generators at bus 2. With a flow of 50 megawatt across the transmission line, this price differential results in a congestion surplus of $750. 50 megawatt multiplied by 15 per megawatt hour, so it is $750. So, based on this data, on bus 1, the generation will receive $35 multiplied by total generation of 25, which is 875. While on the second bus, the bus number 2, the generators which have produced 160 megawatt hours, they will receive $20 per megawatt hour, resulting in total payment of 3200. So in total the generators will receive $4075. Now the payments by the load. At bus 1, the load has consumed 75 megawatt hours, which will pay at $35 per megawatt hour. So the total payment made would be 2625. While on bus 2, the load has consumed 110 megawatt hours. It will pay at $20 per megawatt hours, making a total payment of $2200, resulting in net payment of 4825. So considering this, so if we see here at bus 1, the load has paid 2625 while the generators has received 875, and this comes out to be, the net amount comes out to be 1750. While on the other hand, the generators have received 3200 while the load has paid 2200, resulting in a net amount of 1000. So if we subtract this 1000 from 1750, the net amount turns out to be 750. This 750 is called the congestion surplus. So from this example, we understand that this congestion surplus is essentially the additional amount paid by the consumers at bus 1 compared to what the generators at bus 2 receive. In such scenario, the system operator typically collects this surplus to manage and mitigate congestion in the transmission system, ensuring a fair competition and efficient operation of the electricity market. We will also share this example in an Excel form, embedding all the formulas for your understanding. So what to do with this money that the system operator has collected? One primary role of the congestion surplus lies in its potential to incentivize investments in transmission infrastructure. By using these surplus funds towards transmission enhancements, system operator can address congestion issues and enhance the overall efficiency and reliability of the electricity grid. Alternatively, the congestion surplus can be strategically utilized to benefit customers. This involves returning the surplus to customers as an offset to charges associated with building and operating the transmission system. Such a mechanism can contribute to mitigating costs for end users, promoting fairness in the distribution of financial impacts related to congestion. There are other ways to use this congestion surplus, which will be covered in the upcoming modules. So in conclusion, the issue of congestion surplus is complex and lacks straightforward solutions. How the surplus is distributed carries significant implications for the efficiency and fairness of electricity market. Whether utilized to spur transmission investments or returned to customers, decisions surrounding congestion surplus distribution demand careful consideration to strike a balance between incentivizing improvements and ensuring equitable outcomes. Now that we have understood that how the congestion pricing works in case of the zonal and particularly nodal approaches, so let's see the integration of bilateral contracts or cornerstone of the competitive market with the congestion prices. As you are well versed with the understanding of bilateral contracts, that these are private agreements between two parties at their agreed prices. However, in the nodal market structure, the price of electricity is determined by the location of the buyer and the seller. And if they are located in different places having congestion in between, they will be seeing different prices, which creates a congestion risk for them. We will explain this with the help of an example and will also discuss the two alternatives that exist which settle the market using these market prices. In an earlier section, we had provided an example of a bilateral contract between a generator and a load serving entity that was then settled against the clearing price in a day ahead auction. The clearing price at that time was taken as a single price. Now, this example takes the same bilateral contract and shows how to handle the financial settlement in a day ahead auction with nodal pricing system that reflects the price of congestion between the buyers and the sellers locations. As you can see that the price at the buyer is $32 per megawatt hour, while the price at the seller location is $29. The difference between these two locations is $3 per megawatt hour. The energy component of the total LMP is $31 per megawatt hour. So the congestion component at the buyer location is $1, while the congestion component at the seller location is -2. So with this, it is also confirmed that the congestion component can be either positive or negative. So in this case, when we integrate the bilateral contract into the wholesale market, there are two alternatives. The first alternative is to leave financial settlement for the sale of energy to the two parties to the contract. However, the system operator still collects the congestion charge. The load serving entity directly pays to the generator the $6,000 for energy agreed under the contract. This is the line in the table labeled external payment, since it is external to the centralized market. In a nodal pricing system, however, this is not the whole settlement of the bilateral contract, as was the case in the earlier example. The central payment with the buyer and the seller are just for the congestion charges. The table shows the buyer making a payment to the market of $200, which equals the buyer's price of congestion multiplied by the quantity bought at the buyer's location. The table also shows the seller making a payment to the market of $400, which equals the seller's price of congestion multiplied by the quantity sold at the seller's location. Had the congestion price at the seller's location been positive, it would have received a payment. Since the congestion price was negative, the seller makes a payment to the system operator, which is shown as a negative in the table. The table shows the total payment made by the buyer and the total payment received by the seller. The buyer's total payment are $200 more than agreed to under the contract. Payments to the seller are $400 less than agreed to under the contract. Altogether, the two parties to the bilateral contract have surrendered $600 in payments to the system operator. This is the congestion surplus. Through this settlement structure, an LMP system still forces parties to the bilateral contract to contribute to the congestion surplus. Even though if you have agreed a contract bilaterally at a fixed price, you still need to make this payment to the system operator for the congestion. The second alternative is for the system operator to treat the scheduled power as if it is part of the day ahead centralized market clearing and collect both the energy and congestion components. The table shows the buyer making a payment to the market of $6,400, which equals the buyer's locational margin price multiplied by the quantity bought at the buyer's location. The table also shows the seller receiving a payment from the market of $5,800, which equals the seller's LMP multiplied by the quantity sold at the seller's location. The table shows a side payment to the buyer from the seller of $200. This is made outside of the market. It is equal to the difference between the system energy price, which is $31, and the contract price of $30. This guarantee that the buyer pays the contracted price $30 for energy regardless of the system energy price. The table shows the total payment made by the buyer and the total payments received by the seller, which are exactly the same as under the first alternative. This settlement structure also produces a $600 congestion surplus, which is also equal to the previous case. Well, this example illustrates that a fixed priced bilateral contract still leaves the contracted parties with congestion price risk. Although they can lock in the energy price between them, they cannot lock in the congestion price. As shown, the buyer incurs $200 of this congestion price, while the seller incurs $400. The division between them depends upon the congestion price at their locations. The two parties to the contract can adjust the side payment of the contract so as to assign all of the congestion risk to one party or the other. The table shows the side payment calculated as a function of the system energy price. This leaves each contracting party to shoulder the congestion price risk associated with its particular location. To assign the total congestion risk to one party or the other, the side payment should be calculated as a function of the pair of congestion prices. For example, if the buyer agreed to make a side payment equal to the difference between the LMP at its location and the contract price, then the buyer would assume all of the congestion price risk and will be paying $600. On the other hand, if the side payments were calculated from the difference between LMP at the seller's location and the contract price, then the seller would assume all of the congestion price risk and will be making a payment of $600 to the system operator. In the realm of setting bilateral contracts with the nodal pricing system, the first alternative revolves around leaving the financial settlement for the sale of energy in the hands of the two parties engaged in the contract. Here is a breakdown of the key steps in this alternative. The system operator retains its role in collecting the congestion charge. This charge reflects the financial impact of congestion at specific locations within the electricity grid. The buyer proceeds to pay the seller the agreed upon contract price for the energy exchanged between them. This direct transaction encapsulates the fundamental agreement within the bilateral contract. Both the buyer and the seller independently make payments to the system operator. These payments are contingent on the congestion charge at their respective locations within the electricity grid. This alternative is financial settlement responsibility on the involved parties, emphasizing direct transactions between buyers and sellers. However, the continued involvement of the system operator in collecting congestion charges ensures a centralized approach to managing congestion related financial aspects within the electricity grid. The second alternative in setting bilateral contracts within the context of a nodal pricing system involves treating the scheduled power as an integral part of the day-ahead centralized market clearing. Here is a comprehensive overview of this alternative. Scheduled power from bilateral contracts is assimilated into the day-ahead centralized market clearing. This integration aligns the bilateral contracts with the broader market dynamics. Both the buyers and the seller initiate payments to the system operator based on the locational marginal prices at their respective locations. This aligns with the nodal pricing system where the geographical location influences the electricity prices. Recognizing potential disparities between the system energy price and the contract price, the buyer and seller engage in a side payment arrangement. This side payment serves to reconcile any difference between the agreed upon contract price and the actual system energy price determined by the day-ahead market clearing. This alternative introduces a level of market synchronization where bilateral contracts seamlessly integrate with the broader day-ahead market. The adjustment mechanism for price differences ensures a fair and transparent settlement process, allowing market participants to adapt to the complexities of nodal pricing within the electricity grid. In the above example, we have seen that parties engaged in bilateral contracts are still exposed to congestion price risk because they cannot lock in congestion price. They can adjust their side payments so that only one party is taking the congestion risk, but it is still there. You can't avoid it. In the upcoming modules, you will understand that the market in transmission rights creates some opportunities to hedge this risk. It would be a mistake, however, to think that the LMP system creates congestion risk. The mistake arises from ignoring congestion risk that is embedded in all uniform price systems. The uniform price system does not make congestion risk explicit, but it is still there in the form of quantity risk created by whatever congestion management protocols exist. There can arise occasions when the contracted delivery from the generator to the load serving entity may have to be curtailed due to congestion. The LMP system allows the contracting parties to take all of the risk in the form of congestion price risk. So the LMPs just make this risk explicit, however, it is present in all uniform price systems as well. So with this, we reach the end of this session, and I hope that you have enjoyed the learning. Although we had to cover a lot, and I am thankful for your patience for bearing it with me. Next, I will answer your questions that you have put in the chat box and will try to provide the necessary clarifications in a couple of minutes.